Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Today, we transition from the tight, twisting, technical layout of Barber Motorsports Park to one of the temples of speed that exists within North America. We head to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin to go to Road America, America's national park of speed. Hello, everyone. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by David Whitehouse with Jamie Fluke producing behind the scenes. And David, you really couldn't ask for two different types of circuits on a week-to-week basis, but this is going to be a fantastic race in these GT3s.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Like you say, two completely different circuits. Also, two quite similar circuits, surrounded by concrete walls, grass to drag you in at any point. But Barber Motorsport, a lot more compact. This Elkhart Lake circuit, a lot further sort of spread out, a lot quicker, and not so many technical corners, but a lot of places to catch yourself out.
Yeah, plenty of places to catch yourself out, but plenty of places to get an overtake done as well. There are multiple areas where you're able to do it quite easily and be able to get that overtake done. The draft going to be a huge thing to talk about here all the way around, as is the actual setup of the car, whether you're going to optimize the car for that straight line speed or whether you want to put a little bit more downforce in, get a little bit more grunt in speed through the twisty bits on this circuit.
Yeah, exactly. It all depends on the type of car you've got. For example, if you've got the Porsche, which is known for the twisty parts, you're probably going to try and go as low downforce as possible and try and improve the car on the straights. Whereas a car which isn't used to the corners, like the BMW, for example, we know it's quick down the straights, so maybe you just won't set it up as much with the straights in mind, but that drag up the hill to the start-finish line could be all important come the end of the hour.
Yeah, indeed it could. And as we get ready here for qualifying to take place, drivers currently working their way around, trying to set those fastest laps. Let's bring you through our Apex Racing TV track guide. There you can see the run down into turn one, a bit of a brush breaking corner, probably third or fourth gear in these GT3s. Not the best overtaking opportunity, but you need to be able to carry as much speed as possible to bring you down here through the turn 2, which is a little kink, into the heavier braking zone that is turn 3. That's going to be about a second gear corner to get that lined up, and then you get on the very, very important moraine sweep here, all the way down 3A into 4, into the heavy braking zone of turn 5, a very tricky braking zone downhill. You've got to really watch out. Very easy to lock up the front tires there, but also equally easy to get past here. Then you move up the way into the Corvette Bridge, a very, very troubling area to get the power down as the track has a little bit of camber going into it and then immediately flattens out just after the apex. Turn 7, almost not a corner around here in these GT3s. That'll be flat out, but then through the hurry downs into turn 8, a deceptive corner there. We've seen lots of drivers run wide off into the kitty litter around the outside, but you need to get a good power down there because then we head into one of the signature parts of this Road America circuit, that being the carousel, trying to get as much power as you can out of that long flowing right-hander, and then we flow down into the fearsome kink, flat out corner that lines you up down into this long back straightaway into the world famous Canada corner. Carry a lot of speed there, but it is a heavy braking zone, plenty of rumble strips there that you can take it out. Then up through Bill Bitchel-Mend, through turn 13 and 13A, and then into this tricky braking zone for the final corner. It's only about a third or fourth gear corner again, but you've really got to maximize it to be able to get onto the main straightaway here if you want to have any attempt to get a pass done. The other thing to keep in mind over the course of it is the pit lane here. You don't want to spend a lot of time in there because it is a long pit lane and takes a whole lot of time out of a lap.
Yeah, you're exactly right there in terms of a pit lane. It's so wide, but so long. And we've got the beautiful track map that we've just gone through. And there's so many corners which, like you say, you can overtake on, but so many corners to catch you out. And especially, you think of that long twisting back straight, people trying to make moves, moving their line as well, which just makes it a bit more unpredictable for people. I think back to, I think it's turn, the turn we're now just watching the car go through. There's a bridge there, and I think it was Champ Car's Mimo Gidley hit it and barrel rolled his car, even if it wasn't at high speed. So it just shows how dangerous this track can be for some of the competitors. It just sucks you in and makes you think, oh, I've finally cracked it, and then bang, it will end your race.
Yeah, indeed it will, but one driver who's not having any of those problems, that is Tom Valentini, as Till Beam just takes the point out of my mouth. He is able to jump his way up into that P1 position. Beam there in that Audi working his way around, and I think, as you kind of alluded to earlier, this is going to be a really interesting track in terms of car selection here, because a lot of these different cars are going to have different parts of this very, very long circuit that will favor them. The Audi obviously going to be a little bit better through Sector 2, I think. Definitely looking at the BMW and that Porsche, they're going to be a little bit better maybe on the longer straightaways.
Yeah, exactly, and you couldn't have put it better myself. As we see, the Audi is top at the moment, which, well, Till Beam has been going well pretty much all season. To see that Audi up on top is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Quite quick in a straight line, and hasn't really enjoyed any dominance over Lamborghini, but that's 6/10 of a second for the German over Tom Valentini at the moment. We do have a slightly smaller field than we have been seeing, but still 34 cars strong in this qualifying session, which is surely enough going down into, say, turn 4 and 5 on the opening lap anymore, and it could be absolute chaos.
Yeah, it could indeed. As we just cycled there through your Pro-Am and Am leaders, Paul Collins-Shaw on your screen right now. That is your leader in the Am category. That Ferrari doing a great job. He's 18th overall, but crucially first in Am. Tom Bingham, who's really been the force to be reckoned with in that Am category, he's back in third. Hendrik Lang is top of the charts in the Pro-Am category. Remember, those 3 different categories set by iRating out here. They will be able to fight in and amongst themselves. So certainly a talking point to be able to go over the course. There is Moises Caraballo. He is yet to set a time. That's a little bit surprising. Caraballo's been one of the faster drivers out on the circuit.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise, but if you remember rightly at the last round at Barber, he got very impatient behind Lucas Lang, I think it was, and it actually ended up costing him. So it will be interesting to see if he can try and calm that down a little bit. I do believe we have a few pit lane starters. I will just try and bring up the list myself for tonight. We have pit lane starters of Andrew Broom, Jose Diaz, and Mads Bisgaard. I'm not even sure of any of... Oh, yes, Matt Hasland is in the lobby, but I haven't seen any of the others.
No, nor have I. So a couple of those drivers maybe just opting to take a little bit of an off week there as a result of that penalty. Whoa, big off track there for Adriansons. And that is one of the things that can happen coming out of that final corner. We talked about how you want to carry as much speed as possible through there, but it's a very easy area to pick up some understeer and really let the car drift out wide. And as is often the case, if you touch that grass here on the iRacing sim, it is day over. You're going to completely lose traction.
Yeah, and somebody like Darrow, we saw last week, very quick, but just prone to the odd mistake, and at least it's done in qualifying here as he sits only 1/100th of a second behind Henry Lang at the top of the Pro-Am category, and only 49 thousandths off Lang is Hubler, so super close in the Pro-Am category, and same in the Am category where Paul Calishaw is only 78 thousandths off Patrick Eimer.
Yeah, Eimer able to jump his way ahead before there, as there's the time for Moises Caraballo, able to jump up to the top of the pro standings, besting Till Beam by about 1/10.5, so a very, very good lap there for him. Right on board with Hubler. That's about as perfect as you can take that final corner, but he is going to call it a day and pull on down pit lane.
Yeah, there's still a few green and purple sectors being set out there. I can see Arthur Hoop Kamerl out there in 5th place at the moment in the Pro-Am category. He's just finished his lap and moves up possibly to 4th by the looks of things on the timing screen. So that is a good run by Arthur Hoop Merle to put himself up there in the strategy. And I do apologise to him for putting a K in his second name throughout the first few events. He's very kindly corrected me on that. Here's Matthias Beer coming round the final corner. He is pushing on purple in the first sector, 2 green sectors on this lap, so it'll be interesting to see if he can move himself up ahead of a Lucas Lang as he comes across the line. And there is no... Oh yes, does move ahead of Lucas Lang.
Yeah, just barely there, as that is going to set the grid for today's race, as it will, remember, we have the top 10 inverted, so that's why these are going to look a little bit different, but Kieran Smart will start off in the pole position with Tom McKell in P2. Hendrik Lang will be the highest placed Pro-Am starter with Thomas Cope to his outside. Lucas Lang will be in P5, followed by Matthias Beer, Tom Valentini, and Christoph Herbino in row 4. Till Beam and Moises Caraballo round out your top 10 with Anders Lily Jordet and Dara Adriansons in P12. Behind them, we get into the meat of that Pro-Am field. Greg Hubler and Arthur Hoopke-Merle with Tim Spesser and Daniel Marchand behind them. James Hall will line up in 17th overall, followed by Stuart Reines. Renan Hugenhout will be 19th, and Christoph Regenvetter will be in P20. Patrick Eimer is the highest placed AM driver there. That's a really good run for him, but he is going to have Paul Collinshaw right to his outside. And so that will be a very close battle for the AM category. We've seen that happen before, drivers getting in the middle. Continuing to roll back through the field in 25th, it's Roland Schartner with Ednan Frisna, David Gill, and Tom Bingham a little bit out of position there for him. Stefan Anderson will line up 29th with our own Andy Thompson in 30th. Alex Fields will be 31st with Colin Sansom in 32nd. Jensen Adriansons, Mats Halsend, as we said, had to serve that pit lane start here today, and Christian Engelhardt rounds out your 35-car field.
Yeah, it's a surprise to see Jensen Adriansson starting from the back of the field without a qualifying time. That is a bit of a surprise, but he can work his way through. And how that reverse grid has worked so well for Hendrik Lang. He is 3rd, his nearest Pro-Am rival is down in 12th, and that is exactly what happened for Greg Hubler last time round, and he went on to dominate the round in the Pro-Am category, so that's perfect for him. We're just looking at the points on this rolling up lap. Tom Valentini leads the championship by 13 points from Thomas Cope, and Lucas Lang, our former championship leader, 2 points further back. These top three have slowly pulled away from Wiebel, Niekamp, Matthias Bitter and Kieran Smart. So that is our Pro category. In our Pro-Am category, Greg Hubler, after that dominating win at Barber, has took the lead from James Hall, 5 points. James Hall showing some good speed at Barber, so he'll be looking to continue that here at Road America. Christoph Regenwetter sits in third with Roland Schartner in fourth. Stuart Reness fifth after his second place in the last round. And in the AM category, we have a leader who is Tom Bingham. As we said, he looked very dominant till the last round, had a bit of a mistake, fell to sixth, so his lead is only 3 points ahead of Eden's Frisner. Stefan Anderson sits in third from Alex Fowles and David Gill, and there you can see our very own Andy Thompson in 8th place on 41 points at this stage.
Yeah, indeed. So pretty good battles starting to shape themselves out at the top of the field. And again, with this mixed up grid, with the top 10 being inverted, it's really going to change things around a little bit. Drivers like Valentini that really need to push themselves forward. Cope starting ahead of them. Also, let's not forget about somebody who was not in that championship equation but showed some great speed last time out. Christoph Herbino in the number 92. He's another one to watch out for in that Pro category. There you can see him in that very distinctive red Lamborghini. Didn't compete in the first couple of rounds, but since he has come in, he has been a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, he was very unlucky at Barber Motorsport, getting involved in an incident with another driver rejoining, and that put paid to his good result expectations, as a Porsche safety car is now taking him down to Canada corner. Kieran Smart very happy to be up on the front row, and Tom McKill, who looked very quick last time out, sitting there in the Ferrari. So I think this is slightly advantage towards Thomas Cope and Lucas Lang, sitting third and fourth in class, fourth and fifth overall, and they have all their rivals behind them, but can they keep them behind for the whole hour?
Well, that's going to be the real question. And also, are they going to be able to maybe move their way ahead of Kieran Smart and the other drivers up ahead of them? That's going to be a crucial talking point. Remember, with Smart and McKell, they're directly ahead of those two championship contenders, very much out of position, still holding on to that front. But all eyes right now go to Kieran Smart as he gets ready to take the field to green. iRacing pace car scampers off into the pit lane as we climb the hill here at Road America. All eyes turning to Barney the Flagman as we get ready to go racing. And Kieran Smart waiting for it, and there goes the green. We're racing in Road America. It is a great start for that BMW Track Scotland machine of Kieran Smart. He is immediately able to pull out into the lead there. Still a big bunch up behind. A lot of drivers thinking about it. Almost 3 wide going down into turn 1. Everybody looking like they're starting to sort themselves out as they come through the corner. That is still Smart that continues to lead from McKell. Thomas Cope trying to take a little bit of a look there. I saw a little bit of dust kicked up on the outside of the corner, but I don't think we've had anybody too far off.
No, I think that dust came from Matthias Beer trying to go around the end of outside of Hendrik Lang. Lang taking it very easily in the opening corners just to make sure he keeps that Pro-Am lead and not worrying about the battle with Thomas Cope and Matthias Beer as they come to, I can't even tell you who's too wide because everybody is down into turn number 5 and over top of this hill. Just, you've got to be so patient under this bridge, not get on the power too early. A little bit of dust kicked off, but we've got a spinner there. That is Greg Hubler from last time out dominating. He is already off the track.
And did exactly what you just talked about there, David. Just got on the power a little bit too early, spun those rear tires, and he finds himself around. It doesn't look like he made any contact with the wall, so good for him. Up front, though, it looks like Kieran Smart is starting to pull away a little bit here. Tom McKell maybe being the cork in the bottle with Thomas Cope chasing.
Yeah, it looks like it, and Kieran Smart really trying to stretch this lead while he can. He knows Thomas Cope and also Matthias Beer hanging on very nicely there are really quick in these machinery. There's a little mistake there by Tom McKell on the exit, got on the power too early, and right round the outside goes Thomas Cope and up into second place.
Up into second place goes Thomas Cope, and he's going to clearly set his eyes now on Kieran Smart, try to gain that in the best that he can and see if there is anything to be had from it. Drivers coming across the start-finish line now to start their first lap. To finish their first lap, rather. It continues to be Kieran Smart in the lead of the pro category. Hendrik Lang leads in the Pro-Am, has a big gap of cars as we've got a little bit of side-by-side here. Drivers starting to work their way forward.
Yeah, that, just to confuse us, that was Lang passing Lang. Different classes, same car as... Lucas Lang looking up the inside of Tom McKell into turn number 2. Nicely done. It's going to be a drag race down the hill between the Porsche and the Ferrari, quite equally matched actually in the straight line. Hendrik Lang sitting behind going, where am I meant to go? Maybe I'll have a look right up the inside, but no, that door is shut off. And will Lucas Lang go right round the outside? Yes, he does, and makes that move brilliantly against Tom McKell.
Very heads-up stuff, and able to do that. A little bit of a dive there up to the inside for Caraballo. He is already on a charge. He is up 4 positions from his starting spot right now, and he is not done. Getting a toe off into the grass to be able to get his way off by Tom McKell. McKell losing pieces hand over fist, but Caraballo on a charge here. He now has to try to close up behind and close in on the back of Lucas Lang.
Yeah, very risky move early on by Caraballo, not wanting to let these leaders get away, but I'm sure he could have tried to wait another corner or two for that move. Here's Tom Valentini, who's back in the pack still, with Tim Beam just behind, who's shown tremendous pace and then gets a reverse grid and ends up back in the pack. We're looking now back at James Hall, who's also got 2 wide in front of him. That looks like the Adriansen and Spesser fighting over position, with Daniel Marchant just ahead in 14th, a newbie to the series.
Indeed, James Hall there losing out the position to Stuart Wyness, one of the Track Scotland drivers there. That is for 4th place in that Pro-Am category. Still a little bit of battle going on there as they climb their way up the hill, though.
Yeah, they are still side by side as Rene Hugenhout is alongside. It is Patrick Eimer who he's alongside. So are they going to be still side by side in the break? He makes it. Sorry, that's in front. That's James Hall and Regenwetter side by side. My mistake there. And just actually having a look at the timing screen, Mads Hadsland rejoined the race a lap down and is now back in the pits. So not the day he wanted after that pit lane start.
No, not the day he wanted at all, as they're up in front of everything. That is your leader, Thomas Cope, able to gain on Kieran Smart. He was really able to pull it down, gained 0.8 of a second on that last lap, and he is going to be hassling that Track Scotland BMW driver as they come down now through the hurry downs. This is the part of the track where you really can't get too much of a pass done. You just need to keep it nice and easy and together. As we go back to check out a replay here, this is David Gill.
Yeah, that's just missing his braking point slightly, and that is a contact between Ferrari and Porsche. Oh, and Gill just gets it all involved as well. Cars up in the air, and there's Jensen Adriansen having his own little spin in the foreground, but David Gill stuck against the wall by the looks of it and having to tow to the pits, but Jensen Adriansen rejoining. I also believe that Russell Fowler, Stefan Anderson were probably involved in that as well. Mads Hadsland has rejoined the race, and surprising the AM category that Eden Fraser, who is 2nd in the points, is down in 8th place and 32nd overall.
Yeah, that is not good, but one of those championship leaders, this is Tom Valentini right now, trying to make that move on Tom McKell. Remember, McKell has been losing positions over the course of this race, and it looks like with that run off of the final corner, the Valentini may have a little bit of something to be able to do as they line up their way. And up front, it looks like Thomas Cope has been able to make the move. Cope up into the lead of the race.
Yeah, that's not too surprising considering the pace Cope has been shown behind. Smart to catch him up. Matthias Beer is still in third from Lucas Lang and Kaya Bayo, but looking at the lap times, Cope and Lang are the only drivers in 2 minutes and 1 second lap time. So it's a league of their own almost for Thomas Cope, and he will start to try and pull away at the front of his field. Kieran Smart, if he's going to be smart, shall we say, he will hook onto the back of Thomas Cope, keep it clean and pull away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, as we said, the draft here very, very powerful, specifically on those long front and back stretches. We jump back here. This is Mikkel trying to hold off, I believe. Beam, yeah, that is still Beam trying to get his way on by him in that Audi, and Beam gets it done into turn 7.
Yeah, and here comes Anders Lear-Jordet almost running into the back of Mikkel. I'm not sure whether Mikkel might be holding a little bit of damage from the opening laps, but he really does seem to be struggling. And just behind them is Hendrik Lang, who's now only got one car between him and the rest of the Pro-Am field. Just having a little further down, that action further back where we saw David Gill, Russell Fowler having issues, has put Andy Thompson up into third in class, and also in the pits is our championship leader, Tom Bingham.
Oh no, what has happened there to Tom Bingham? This is a heartbreak there for him. This is too early to be a pit stop. He must have picked up damage.
Yeah, it's got to be a damage thing. We're just seeing David Gill in there as well. And all this chaos in the AM category has moved Colin Sampson up into 5th in class. Alex Fields, who we saw making the podium last time, in 4th. And as I say, Andy Thompson moving up to 3rd. So Paul Carlishaw, Patrick Eimer won't know what's going on behind them, but they are pulling away at the front of the AM field to the tune of 7 seconds now.
Indeed, they are. As we jump up to the top of the Pro-Am field, Hendrik Lang continuing to try to not bleed any more positions. That's Tim Spesser directly behind him in that Audi. Spesser looking very, very aggressive, poking his nose to the inside a little bit. That's Tom Bingham there in that McLaren, just getting out of the way of everybody. He knows he's a lap down, and I think that may have cost Lang just a fraction of a second there, and that is not going to be good news as he tries to get by Lily Jordet, or as he tries to get by, as Spesser tries to get by Lang, rather.
Yeah, Lang will be happy enough to sit there in the middle of his pad. There's a little bit of a gap back to second in class Daniel Merchant and Stuart Winness. Oh, that was Leah Jordet diving up the inside of Mikkel, was it? And it looks like it's took them both out. Leah Jordet rejoining. Yeah, there's Tom Mikkel trying to rejoin as well, both doing it as safely as they can, which is brilliant. But a little dive by Anders Lear Jordet, which we don't see often, a little, you know, a cheeky little dive. He's took the risk and it's took them both down the field. Yeah,
indeed. And he just had a run there and tried to go for it, and I think he frankly took Mikkel by surprise. Mikkel turned in on him a little bit, not expecting an attack there coming through turn 9. Or turn 6 rather, that Mikkel just took a little bit of a later apex on the corner and did not expect that Audi to be where he was.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened, and Leah Jordet isn't one to be running into people, but Tom Mikkel, maybe, considering the amount of people who have been passing him left, right and centre, maybe should have seen something like that coming as a dive, because he hasn't really had the pace to hold on to the positions for now. As we now look at Matthias Beer, who's trying to hold off Lucas Lang. Lang, who was winning the championship or leading the championship before the last round at Barber Motorsport, now has dropped back a little bit after a couple of poor results. And he will be really wanting to get onto the podium this time by. The drivers have to look at this. At the moment, Kaya Bayo, one of the quickest on the field, not up there in the points yet. Herbino, Valentini, Beam, all behind them. This is winnable. I mean, it's 10 minutes in, but it's great positions as Lang now goes. It's a great run on Beer. He's up the inside. Beer gives him plenty of room, knowing he has plenty of time to keep fighting for that podium. And they have Kaya Bayo coming straight up behind him. And this is Hendrik Lang also doing the same with Tim Spesser just going, oh, and up the inside. Who is that? Merchant? Yeah, Merchant having a look. And this is now dangerous for Hendrik Lang, who has now fallen to the back of a pro field and now has his actual rivals right up with him.
Yeah, indeed he does, and that's Lang, Merchant, and Wyness. They're running 1, 2, 3. Those are your overall leaders for the Pro-Am category there, so they have got to be very, very careful. It's Porsche versus BMW as they work their way through the carousel. Merchant in that white and blue machine there that you can see in the center of your screen. Henrik Lang in the purple, and Wyness in that blue and orange Track Scotland machine, starting to separate themselves out just a little bit as they work their way through the kink. Not looking like we're going to see an attack here necessarily, but this is definitely a battle that is starting to rage up, and one that I anticipate, frankly, carrying on throughout the entirety of the race.
Yeah, exactly. This is now, we have groups, we have the top 9 in the Pro category altogether, we have the top 7 in the Pro-Am category altogether, so there is no other drivers from different classes trying to get involved. Here's Patrick Eimer trying to hold on to the back of the Pro-Am group with Paul Colishaw, who's down in points because of incidents in different races, but shown a tremendous pace all year, is now trying to get that result that it really does deserve. But we're just having a look currently. I'm really impressed with Kieran Smart, I've got to say. Oh, Colishaw off on the exit of 1.
Little bit of understeer there, didn't able to get the car slowed down enough, and that car wanted to brush wide. Again, a little bit of understeer, it looked like coming into the corner, wasn't able to get it down to the apex fully there. McCullishaw able to respond a little bit more. Here is Moises Caraballo trying to fend off at a little bit of an attack there. It looks like that's Matthias Beer in the Ferrari behind him.
Yeah, so he's got past Beer at the start of his lap, whether it's into turn 1 or turn 4, who knows, but Beer has dropped behind Caraballo, who's showing some good pace. I've got to say, tremendously impressed with Kieran Smart. Thomas Coke went through and he has hung on to the back of him. He's only 6/10 back. This is a replay of Paul Colishaw coming down the hill. Let's see what happens to him here. Oh, and it's a spin, and there's a spin there. That is Adriansen, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I believe you're right there, and I'm not sure if that was just a little bit of incident fixation for Colin Shaw, or if that was maybe an instance where he caught a little bit of the inside grass. It looked like he did clip that curve a little bit tighter than you normally would.
Yeah, I think it was 2 separate incidents altogether, but as we said in qualifying, Darren Adriansen is mega quick but prone to that odd mistake, and it looks like he's just pushed a little too hard. As we now have a look at this Pro-Am battle between Lang, Merchant, Widnes, James Hall is there, and then not too far back is Regan Wetter, and they're trying to hold on to the back of Tim Spesser in the Pro category. So in this battle, we have a Porsche, 2 BMWs and a Lamborghini. No Ferraris, they're just a little bit behind, but here comes Merchant, who has nothing to lose in this championship, remember. He's only just joined it, and he can take that little bit more of a risk in trying to win this race as Widnes almost spins it out to turn 1.
A lot of drivers having some problems into turn 1 as they concertina down into the braking zone for turn 3. Wide run there for Merchant. I think that is going to prevent him from really getting an attack there necessarily. Wyness coming up behind, not looking like he's going to be able to capitalize, but certainly that little run wide is going to hurt Daniel Marchand. Is he still going to think about a move on that Porsche? No, but he is going to take a very, very wide line through the corner, brings it on down, everybody being very, very careful. I'm keeping an eye here on James Hall as well. That Lamborghini's looking particularly quick. He's really been able to close into the back of Stuart Wyness. Another wide one for Marchand. Is he feeling the pressure a little bit?
Yeah, the drive, as you can see on the exit of these corners, the drivers start to make their own racetrack, just running that little bit wide. Just having a look, actually, Colishaw still third after that spin, but it's allowed Andy Thompson just to get ahead of him. So there's a really close battle in the AM category for second place between Thompson and Colishaw. Here it is on screen, and just behind that is Arthur Hoop Kamerl trying to recover after a mistake earlier on. He's running 10th in class, but Andy Thompson having to try and fight off one of the quickest drivers in the AM category right now.
Yeah, and Andy now really left being the standard bearer for that McLaren, with Tom Bingham having that early incident that saw him go down pit lane. So currently that McLaren being led by Andy Thompson, second overall, highest placed McLaren, only one of two in the field. This looks like a good run here for Collishaw. He's definitely got a good bit of draft. Is he going to poke his inside to the inside of Canada corner? No, he is not. He thought about it, tried to force Thompson off the line a little bit, but that was not enough to make it work. Now as they come up through Bill Mitchell Bend, this is a very tricky area for that McLaren, as you've got to lift off a little bit there, and the infamous off-throttle oversteer in that car can really catch you for a loop.
Yeah, and look who's just up the road. That is teammate to Andy Thompson, Tom Bingham, coming round to be lapped by the leaders of the AM category. So that shows how much time Tom has lost, but maybe he can play a bit of a part in helping Andy Thompson out.
Maybe he can indeed. We will have to see as drivers continue to work their way around here. Focusing in on these battles. This is that battle. Collishaw continuing to close in.
Sorry to cut in. Kieran Smart back in the lead. Tom Cope, he's lost about a second in that position, so I don't know if he's just run wide and Kieran Smart has got back through, or Smart had a good lap and closed in. Let's have a look here. Cope on the outside, and it's going to be up over the crest of the hill. Does he just get a little bit too wide on exit? Yes, he does. That's very well held by Cope. So easy to spit yourself into a wall, but Kieran Smart is now into the lead.
Yes, he is, and so we were talking about how Kieran was going to just have to sort of hold on to the best of his abilities. It doesn't look like that at all, as he's been able to stretch that gap up to about 0.7 of a second right now, though. They still have a little bit of breathing room back to Lucas Lang, about 1.3 seconds, but they don't want to let that grow down any lesser, because if they do, the draft is certainly going to come into play here, and Lang will be able to catch back up a little bit as we jump back here. This is Collishaw able to get the move done on Andy Thompson, going down into turn 5. Thompson tries to go a little bit defensive, comes back to the racing line. Collishaw just says, thank you, I will be later on the brakes and take that. Almost a little bit of contact there between Thompson and Hoopka Merle.
Yeah, Thompson didn't realise Hoopka Merle would try and take advantage of that, but back at the front we have Kieran Smart leading the way. That mistake by Tom Cope, but 2-minute 1.9s by Lang and Kayabayo is dragging that pack with Beer and Herbino towards the front, and that is really going to close up this gap. So we now have 3.5 seconds. There is the top 6 all in your screen, and just behind Tom Valentini, the championship leader, having a watching brief for now, and all the classes, well, Pro-Am class, top 4 covered by 1.5 seconds. So this is super close between them all, and at the moment Patrick Eimer in the AM class is wondering where everybody else has gone.
Yeah, indeed he has, and you know, you talked about that close gap there for the pros. Well, the Pro-Ams here, we look out the back of Daniel Marchand. That is Henrik Lang directly behind Tim Stewart, Wyness, and James Hall. Very close there as well. So for these top 2 categories, the battles continue to rage on. Something we'll have to talk about over the course of this race is going to be the changing track conditions. We started here in the morning. Sun is starting to rise a little bit. That means this track is going to be heating up. There's going to be a little bit more heat in that asphalt. I don't anticipate it getting to the sort of boiling triple-degree Fahrenheit temperatures that we sometimes see at Road America, but you're definitely going to get a little bit of a different condition on the track.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just having a look actually back just ahead of Roland Schottner is Greg Hubler, who we saw spinning on the opening lap, and he is running at the pace of the leaders, running it around 2-minute 3 flat, and it's only 11 seconds behind after that spin. So pretty impressive by Greg Hubler in the 199 BMW, and I wouldn't count him out of being part of this battle by the end of the race.
No, nor would I. He's got plenty of speed. Here is Caraballo able to catch back up to the rear end of Lucas Lang. Now, I don't think he's going to be close enough to really have an attack going down into turn 1, but that draft certainly helping him out. You've heard a little bit of a lift there. Caraballo just choosing discretion as the better part of valor. Not wanting to push too far ahead. Not sure if that was Kieran Smart or if that was Thomas Cope kicking up a little bit of dirt there on the exit of turn 1. Again, there it looked like that was Lucas Lang kicking it up, and I think this may be right for the overtake here.
Yeah, he's lining it up very nicely at the moment. Let's just see whether he can do it. Lang goes to the inside just to defend. Kayabayo not going to try around the outside, but just behind we have Beer under pressure from Herbino. And there's a collision there. That was Herbino too late on the brakes. There's Valentini off the track trying to avoid. Beer trying to stay out of the way. Through goes Tim Beam, and these guys just trying to rejoin as safely as they can. Very well done by Matthias Beer to reverse towards the gravel. There's Herbino getting going again. But was that move just a little ambitious by the Belgian?
Well, let's go back and check out the replay brought to you by SDK Gaming. Dives down to the inside. He's a very, very far way back. Yeah, I've got to say there from Herbino, that door was always going to close, and Matthias Beer was always going to have that apex. He was so far back on that attempt.
Yeah, I think Beer also braked a lot later than he expected, and that's what gave Beer the run around the outside, and it was just too late for Herbino to get out of that one. So unfortunate, but it happens in racing, and they'll live to fight another day, even though they have lost about 18 seconds between them. But we are back at this battle. Lang and Kayabayo have fallen back slightly from Cope and Smart. Again, mega impressed by Kieran Smart right now, running at the front of one of these races for I would say one of the first times this season, and he's looking very, very quick. Into actually a new personal best by him that time round, a 2 minute 2.30. And with Thomas Cope behind him, we've seen really high up in most of the races. There is pressure on the Scots.
Yeah, indeed there is. And sort of breaking out into a little bit of couplets here, Kieran Smart and Thomas Cope, and then Lucas Lang and Moises Caraballo, just sort of waiting for both of these battles to really fire off here. You saw a little bit of a move there on the front of your screen from Thomas Cope, just thinking about it this way and that. Same thing with Moises Caraballo. Is Cope going to be able to have a move here? No, he's going to stay behind that BMW. I think Cope looks relatively content right now. He doesn't really want to try to go for an overly aggressive move.
Exactly. There's no point going for it. Kieran Smart isn't up there in the championship like Lang or Kayabayo. They've all just seen the time lost by Tom Valentini going into the gravel. Herbino, another driver there, sort of worried about. Beer was up there as well with the pace today, and they've seen them tumble down the field slightly. So it's certainly less pressure for Cope to make the move now. But he can see that the two Porsches behind aren't really closing, and we know Kayabayo isn't that strong in terms of a point situation at this stage.
No, he certainly is not. I would be a little bit, though, just in terms of today, worried. If Caraballo is able to get by Lang, we believe that Caraballo's got a little bit more speed than Lucas Lang. And so if he is able to get on by, I think that's when it really turns into push time for Thomas Cope.
Yeah, and just to add in the AM category, Eden Frizzer has moved up to 6th place and will be trying to take advantage of Tom Bingham, who is back in the pits for a second time. A long stop this time. He's been in there for 50 seconds already. I'm not sure what's happened to Tom, but this has really not been the day he was hoping for.
No, it certainly is not. And whoa, thinking about a move is Thomas Cope. Going for a move is Thomas Cope. Backing off of the move is Thomas Cope. There, he is not going to go for it, but he's definitely trying to get into the head of that Track Scotland driver of Kieran Smart. Thinking about trying to move to the inside down the start-finish straightaway as we've got Daniel Merchant coming down pit lane. And we are at just now the 25-minute mark in this race. And so I think that could be a scheduled stop.
Yeah, a strange time to do it when you lead in the class, though. We don't often see the leader of the class first into the pits, as we see James Hall trying to have a look at that will be Herbino, who's back in the Pro-Am field at this moment in time, trying to make his way through. But yeah, it's unusual to see the leader of a class being the first to pit, and so early when it is kind of risky to pit this early in terms of trying to get to the end of the race. But they'll know what they're doing. Stefan Anderson has also joined the Frenchman Merchant in the pit lane, so maybe it's just the way they want to run the race. But James Hall up in second and Stuart Winness leading the way, and we have two Team Track Scotland cars leading two classes.
Yeah, it's going to be good for them as a team. And to your point about the pit stops, I mean, the only thing I can really think of is the reason why they would want to come in is maybe they've been able to see a big gap of clean air behind. But, oh, here comes Caraballo. Is he going to have a move down into Canada Corner? No, Caraballo's lifting again. I wonder here a little bit if Moises Caraballo is just trying to save a little bit of fuel, maybe lifting off down the straights a little bit, doing a little bit of lifting and coasting, going into the corners, seeing if he can extend this pit cycle a little bit longer. Lucas Lang there a little bit squirrely on the exit of Bill Mitchell Bend.
Yeah, it could very much be, but if he's got the pace to close on Cope and Smart, I would be making that move now and trying to close that gap ready for the pit stops. He's been behind Lang and in the traffic for long enough compared to Smart and Cope. As Cope is going to the inside of turn one, nicely, easily done. Kieran Smart eases off the throttle and lets Cope go because that is a common sense thing to do. There's no point going side by side as we have James Hall in the pit lane from second in Pro-Am.
Indeed, also looks like Adam Gladden coming down the pits from that Pro-Am category, focusing here on Patrick Eimer, leader in your amateur standings right there. That is a driver that he is able to get around. I believe that's some lap traffic there. Yeah, that is not Rene Hugenhout, which is the driver directly ahead of him on track. That is a slower Ferrari that is a lap down.
Yeah, I think that may possibly be Russell Fowler because the only other Ferrari a lap down is Darren Adriansen, who retired on lap 6. I'm thinking by the looks of this, Tom Bingham has also retired. He's not setting any more time, and Tom Bingham could be out of this race, and it could be Neil Poir for the AM Championship leader.
Oh, and that's going to be a big talking point for Bingham. Is there you can see Moises Caraballo able to get by Lucas Lang. That was down into turn 5, I believe, that he was able to make that pass. And now he has got one bit of lap traffic in between himself and Kieran Smart to be able to try to close in on that second place in the points or in the podium. Here is the move. This is going down the long Marine sweep. Lang holding off to the right side there. I'm imagining a little bit of a juke to the inside for Caraballo. That's exactly what he does. Down onto the brakes and out again.
Yeah, Lang thinking there's plenty of time. We've got the pit stops coming up. Caraballo may be that little bit quicker, and maybe I can just tag onto the back of him as they have all passed Stefan Andersen from Denmark. As Thomas Cope pits, so Cope is the first to pit. It must be a thing for Road America that the leader is the first to pit.
Yeah, a little bit surprised there as Cope wasn't in the lead of the race for the majority of this, and so just kind of lagging behind a little bit. I would have thought he would have been able to save some fuel, but clearly wants to do this here. This may be a little bit of a strategy. Come in now, try to avoid some traffic potentially. Not entirely sure. We check back in on the podium as it stands right now with Smart, Caraballo, and Lang. Lang not going anywhere on Moises Caraballo. He is keeping that Porsche close behind the 43.
Yeah, Lang hanging on. I just don't quite... The only thing I can think with Cope is he's seen Caraballo move into second place and just doesn't want to start a fight with him and make them lose time. Let's get into the pits and drive his own race. As we see, he has rejoined. He hasn't rejoined yet. Matthias Beer is also in the pits. Paul Cowlishaw is in the pits, and Arthur Hoop Kamerl. So those 4 drivers have pitted this time by as we come towards the half-hour point of this race. And here comes Tom Cope out in 10th. Well, 10th place in class, 18th overall.
Yeah, indeed. And as I said, such a long pit lane here at Road America. You lose a whole bunch of time coming on through there. Tom Cope, only 25-second pit stop, but much more of that time lost in pit lane itself. Looks like a little bit of problems there. We focus back in on your Pro-Am leader right now, Stuart Wyness. Christoph Wegenbetter right there behind him in that 111 Ferrari, very close behind and keeping the pressure up to that Track Scotland driver.
Yeah, I'm not sure what had happened just in front of Thomas Cope there, but obviously somebody had just ran wide on the exit of the corner. We have this Stuart Wyness leading the way ahead of Regenwetter, who just kept his powder dry. I said the 2 Ferraris were just hanging back slightly. They've caught onto the back of Stuart Wyness, and Regenwetter looking super quick in this pit stops phase.
Yeah, he really is. Is Smart, Caraballo, and Lang all come in from your leading position. So it'll be interesting to see here where Thomas Cope is going to come out in response to them.
I am quite surprised about that, but then Valentini and Beam are coming in, so maybe this is just as far as the cars will go with the fuel around this Road America circuit, and it's just a struggle to go any further as Wines comes in and Regenwetter as well. So we've got a host of pit stops. Only Herbino, who was the driver who went that little bit longer last time at Barber Motorsport, is doing that same strategy again.
Well, Christoph Herbino is known for being a bit of a fuel wizard. He has an incredibly light right foot, and so that is good. Patrick Eimer able to continue on for another lap, contradicting really the rest of the field. That is your AM class leader that is able to continue on there, waiting for everybody else to sort of cycle their way around. Caraballo is going to come out in the lead. Now, where is Thomas Cope? He is going to be coming in at full blast here. It looks like he may have lost out. Kieran Smart, he's going to hold over Kieran Smart, but he is going to find himself behind Lucas Lang and Moises Caraballo.
That has worked perfectly for the two Porsche drivers. I'm not even sure what made Thomas Cope lose those positions, his outlap being a 2:43. So we'll just see what other people do for their outlaps. No, it seems to be matching. It matches Matthias Beers as well. So and here comes Cope to the outside of Lang. He's got everything right back up to temperature and drives around the outside of a Porsche driver. Lang just being really careful, still side by side as they head up the hill, and Lang is going to be on the inside. I can't see Cope going around the outside of there, but he does. He hangs it out. He's out on the tarmac. He's got the inside for the next corner. Lang will give way, and Cope is back up into provisionally second overall.
A lot of tenacity there for Thomas Cope. He did not want to lose that position, and he has got to get a little bit of a hustle on, especially considering Moises Caraballo now with that squabbling is a full 3 seconds up the road. So Cope has really got to get his push on here if he wants to close in on that number 43 Porsche.
Yeah, did Caraballo may be short fuel because he'd saved a bit or something, because that was a very quick stop. Jumped Lang, jumped Cope, and then had, jumped Smart, was just ahead of Lang, but then has a 3-second lead over Cope. Where's that come from? You can see the pit stop times, almost a 1.5 seconds gained over Cope by Caraballo. In the pits is Herbino and Eimer, so everyone will have done their pit stops by the end of this lap, and it's Moises Caraballo who will take the lead of this race here at Road America.
He will indeed, as Herbino is in to rest in his box. Eimer just coming down. There you can see him on the back of your screen. Herbino getting that service. And yeah, it looks like Caraballo was about 2 seconds faster in the box. So I think your short fuel, or maybe he was just able to save a little bit more to be able to make that work one way or the other. It has paid off in spades here from Moises Caraballo. Herbino back out and on his way. I think he is going to have a healthy gap between himself and Tim Spesser. Indeed, he is. There is Spesser on your screen, so not as healthy as you would have liked, but still a couple of seconds there, a little bit of breathing room for the Delta Sport Lamborghini driver.
Yeah, and as you can see, there is Daniel Merchant on his debut in the series in the Pro-Am category, and it's worked out perfectly for him. He now has a 3-second lead over Stuart Wines and Regenwetter, and Henrik Lang, I'm not sure what's happened to him, but he's down in 8th in the class, 18th overall, and just not happened for him during this pit stop phase.
No, it really and truly hasn't. One thing to keep in mind, though, is Merchant did pit relatively early here. He pitted back on, it looks like, lap 12. And so what that means is I'd be a little bit concerned if he is going to be able to have enough fuel to be able to run to the end of the race unless he goes into mega fuel-saving mode.
Yeah, that's true, and Wines already starting to eat into that lead. He's got Matthias Beer right behind him, pushing him along, and if I was Wines, I might, knowing the pace Beer has had here today, maybe just let Beer go and follow in with him, because it is a different class overall. With the pit stops now done in AM, Patrick Eimer is dominating field, and I was just about to say, when he managed to do his pit stop, he came in second overall. I don't think we've seen an AM driver in that kind of position, even for a pit stop phase. So that shows how close he was to the leaders, as well as the long pit lane we have here. But he is 15 seconds clear of Paul Cowlishaw, who we saw having that contact earlier on. And this is Lucas Lang trying to get Thomas Cope back down into turn 1, and a brilliant move. Got a great run out of final corner and was already alongside across the start-finish line. And Kieran Smart trying to have a nibble at Tom Cope as well.
Yeah, Cope not looking exactly like he has got everything under control here, as that's going to be a good run out of the corner for Lucas Lang. Kicking up a little bit of dirt on the exit of turn 3 was Thomas Cope, right on board now with Kieran Smart as he tries to see if he can close in on the back of that brightly painted Lamborghini. Little bit of a defensive move there for Thomas Cope. He is certainly starting to feel the pressure, but Kieran Smart has no desire to make the overtake there. He just wants to stay behind right now, find that high percentage move to really be able to get that move done.
Yeah, Smart is being, well, smart and just sitting there, and he knows this fight is not happening now. He's got another 25 minutes to have this fight, and really these three need to work together to try and close it on Moises Caraballo.
Yeah, they do. Caraballo's been able to extend that gap by a couple of tenths of a second. It now holds at about 3.8 seconds right now, as we've had a big crash farther down in the field. This is Greg Hubler, I believe, as he comes down into turn 5. Oh, and is that Matthias Beer, I believe.
Yeah, that's Matthias Beer being hit in the side at the same corner yet again, as he did with Herbino earlier on in the race. So Matthias Beer is going to have to be really careful. Hubler was jumping to the pits and joining Russell Fowler in there at the moment. So some big names not having good races. Adriansen, Bingham, Hubler now headed to the pits, and whether he's got his fast repair or not, I think actually Hubler may have retired the car.
I think he may have, as well, as we focus back in on that trio fighting for the podium positions. A little bit of a look there from Thomas Cope. That was some lap traffic there behind that they had to navigate their way around. Cope not looking like he's lost any speed here. The Olympus Esports driver definitely trying to keep the pressure up to Lucas Lang as much as possible.
Yeah, you've got to just keep the pressure on the best you can, but Lang has been in this series enough to know how to cope with the pressure. Ironically, cope with it, as Thomas Cope is right behind him. Kieran Smart is there as well. Cope just dives out just to try and scare the German a little bit. Yeah, I don't think you're going to do that, Tom. You've got to do more than that with the experience of Lucas Lang, who just runs a little bit wide, but I don't think that is due to what Tom was doing behind. But these guys are actually matching the pace of Moises Caraballo, but they need to be beating it and closing in on the leader in that Porsche.
Well, and we've seen the same story both out of Cope and both out of Lang. It's not like either one of them really has excess speed to be able to close in on Caraballo. We saw Lang lead for a little bit. We've seen Cope lead for a little bit. It's just a matter of, I think Moises Caraballo has a little bit of their number. That gap stabilized at about 3.8 seconds right now. They work their way now down into the kink. Things starting to spread out a little bit as these cars start to pick up speed down through the woods and into Canada Corner, waiting to see if there's going to be any sort of move there. No, Cope's going to stay behind.
Yeah, these three just need to start working together a little bit and put themselves in a position to try and challenge for the victory near the end of the race. They're close enough to Caraballo to try and close that gap in. We'll see what their lap times are across the line. This time by Caraballo will just about be crossing the line in a split second, and it is a lap time of 2 minutes 2.25 for Caraballo, and Lucas Lang closes 0.2 of a second and brings Cope and Smart. Actually, that was Smart's best lap of race. He's learning every corner behind these two who normally run at the front of the field.
Yeah, indeed he is. And I think here, maybe if I'm Thomas Cope, if I'm recognizing that pace out of Lucas Lang, and I don't think I can do a whole lot better, it may not be the worst thing in the world for him to just hold back here, let Lang pull him along and keep going. Focus back, though, on the leader in Pro-Am. Remember, some fuel questions there for Merchant, but this is Stuart Wyness, the Track Scotland driver, closing down on the Olympus Esports driver. That is very similar as well, as Thomas Cope drives for Olympus Esports, Kieran Smart for Track Scotland, just like Merchant for Olympus and Wyness for Track Scotland. This gap relatively stable, it has to be said, and Christoph Wegenwetter behind them as well. I think that's pretty much out of the effective draft range here for Stuart Wyness, so he's going to have to really just push more if he wants to get up behind Merchant.
Yeah, he's going to have to push that a little bit more, but there's plenty of time left to just slowly close it in. The gap just dipping below 2 seconds now, so Wyness is slightly quicker. He's just got to find that little touch more pace. Last time out he was half a second quicker than Merchant on the lap times, and while things have quietened down a little bit, well, we all know what's going to happen next. I'd just like to also, we've got to say thank you to our 3 sponsors for tonight's broadcast. That is Virtual Racing School, who improve your on-track performance with 50 data packs, road and oval racing setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-to-one coaching, which can also be used in conjunction with our second sponsor, Apex Racing Academy. They have 29 data packs, setup, track guides, integrate with the VRS system, and weekly group coaching sessions, plus much, much more on the Discord channel. And the final one is SDK Gaming, the lovely overlay that you can see on the screen at this moment in time. And I'm not talking about the front of Wegenwetter's Ferrari, which looks a mess for some reason. Not sure what's happened there for the Ferrari, but he has fallen down to 6th in class.
Yeah, and this may be it. This is coming out of the carousel right now. Just ran it wide, touched the grass, and hard impact into the wall.
Yeah, very easily done. And the reason we knew that Wegenwetter had crashed is part of the SDK Gaming system that can tell us when these drivers have had an incident or an off track. It also add this HUD to your iRacing, show time in towers, fuel calculations, so help you stream your information to Twitch, broadcast any leagues you want to do, and SDK Gaming can sync your commentaries together. So that's why myself and DJ can see exactly the pictures that we are being sent from the producer Jamie at this moment in time, and we're talking about the same thing as we go along. And also, if you are running a team event, you can use SDK Gaming to form your strategy and improve it as you go along. So 3 great sponsors there for this GT Trophy series.
Yeah, indeed, and you singing the praises of SDK. I can't sing them enough. It has been absolutely game-changing to be able to have that software, so go ahead and check that out. But back to the battles out on track. This is Patrick Eimer, your leader in the pro category, in the AM category. Not having a whole lot to do, but who has had a whole lot to do is Lucas Lang, and he is really starting to push, and he is starting to try to break away a little bit here from Thomas Cope, building that gap up. But Moises Caraballo has seen what is coming from behind. He goes purple on that last lap. He has been able to build that gap up to 4.2 seconds. He is pushing.
Yeah, he's pushing, but that can always be risky around Road America. You've already seen on this lap alone him dipping the rear tyre off the curb in the first 2 corners. You start doing that, and at some point it will start to bite you. Now, the odd added thought is always that if you start backing off, you're more likely to make a mistake, as many drivers have said over the years. But Caraballo, that's the 3rd time he's dipped his wheel off just on this lap alone, and that shows you just how hard he is pushing. Will he do it here? Yes, he does it here again. And will he do it here? Not quite. So not a full track of little cuts for Caraballo, but he is pushing that Porsche to the limit, and will he push it past the limit?
Well, that is the question to be decided here on the final 15 minutes of this race. Kieran Smart here back and forth, looking like he's losing a little bit of touch with Thomas Cope. That gap has expanded to about 1.4 seconds or so. Track Scotland driver trying to keep up a little bit, but you know, this is the part of the race, obviously nobody taking tires here, that you definitely start to feel the effect of that tire wear a little bit. As we said, track temperatures are still pretty cool out on track. Nothing really to write home about. Very only about 66 degrees Fahrenheit out in the air. I think about 70 odd degrees Fahrenheit out on track. So it's not like they're overheating, but it's just the constant wear that gets on them. And you really have to be careful about that when you're double stinting.
Yeah, exactly. And Kieran Smart has held on to the back of these two for quite a bit of a race. As we look at a replay now, this is Alex Fields, who I believe has fallen down the field slightly. Here he is on the outside. Oh, and just turns in. I'm not sure why he turned in when the Porsche had been there all along, and that will have been the Porsche possibly of Stefan Andersson on his inside, who's doing a great job getting up into fourth in class at this moment in time, but that AM category being dominated by Patrick Eimer. Looking at the front though, Lucas Lang and Cope are dropping Smart, but Smart has the pace. I think he's got to his pace. I think it was there's a little mistake on the last lap, but I don't think he's going to be able to dip into the 201s. You watch now, he will do, but he has a nice 8.5 second gap over Tom Valentini, and he'll be looking to try and control it in fourth place and maybe pick up the odd bits and pieces if any drivers make mistakes ahead.
Yeah, I think that seems to be the plan here for Kieran Smart, to just pick up the pieces, especially considering as close as Lang and Cope are battling right now. There's only about 4/10 of a second separating the two. Cope really all over the back of Lucas Lang, trying to see if he can get a move done here. You see a little bit of a different line there coming out of the carousel. Lang picking up a little bit of dirt on the exit of the corner. Let's see how both of them take tank. A little bit of a later apex there for Lucas Lang, a little bit of twitch on corner exit, but he's able to keep everything nice and collected.
Yeah, keeps it collected, but Lang really under pressure by Cope. I think Cope's seen the gap grow into Kyobayo and thought, if I don't go now, it doesn't, you know, this battle might as well start now. Kyobayo is gone at this stage of the race, and I'm not going to close, Lang's not going to close, so let's just fight over second place nice and early.
Yeah, exactly. The time winding down here, only 12 minutes left to go on the clock. That is certainly something that they need to do. If you want to fight, now is the time to do it. Lang going defensive down to the inside pit wall there, trying to hold off as much as possible. Cope's going to come back to the racing line, as is Lucas Lang. They both break down into that third, fourth gear corner for turn one. Keeping that pressure up is Thomas Cope. The gap only about 3/10 of a second. If he can nail this exit out of 3, he may have a little bit of a run. Wide run there off of the exit for Lang, but it doesn't appear to cost him too much time, maybe about a half a tenth.
Yeah, a little bit of slipstream here for Cope. Lang will go defensive. He doesn't worry about Kyobo now. He's looking for second place, and Cope. That was Cope trying to do the dummy on Lang, and I think maybe possibly a bit of netcode there. Cope, I wouldn't try and make that move now, Tom. You know, whether it's netcode or not, you made a little bit of an error there, ran into the back of Lang. Give it a couple of corners and then start fighting again, just for fairness of play.
Yeah, exactly. And you saw a little bit of a response there from Lucas Lang, a very defensive line coming up into turn 6, really trying to block that attack. But now the one thing that has happened is Cope may have shown his hand a little bit. That battling, though, has allowed for Kieran Smart to be able to close back in behind, just as you said earlier, David, waiting to pick up some of those pieces if something were to happen between these two. That's exactly what it looks like Kieran Smart might be able to do.
Yeah, DJ, that's exactly what he needs to do. And now he can close back in. He may have given his tyres a little bit of a rest as well. But there's a really slow lap as Cope has another look into Canada Corner. But there's a really slow lap, a 2:12 for Paul Cowlishaw, which has dropped him into the clutches of Andy Thompson in the AM category. So that will be interesting for see what happened here. Is Cowlishaw, is it onto a final corner by the looks of this? And does he just run wide and spin it round. Yeah, just too much power, and into the wall, so there's damage to that Ferrari. And can Andy Thompson take advantage?
Well, that's going to be the question, to see if he is able to do it. Let's see what Andy has got. He has certainly closed in behind Collishaw here enough. Looking behind, that is Stefan Anderson is about 22 seconds behind, so he doesn't have to worry about any attack from behind. He is able to just go all out here. Yeah,
and it will certainly be a interesting championship to look at, with Patrick Eimer leading, Collishaw and Thompson as a podium, Freezer, who's second, down in fifth. Bingham out of the race, obviously probably going to be one of his drop scores by the end of the race. Same in the Pro-Am category, you've got Stuart Winnes scoring big points and James Hall, when people like Darrell Adriansen and Greg Hubler are out of the race. So this race has really turned the point system on its head. Thompson now under pressure. I think that's from Gill, who's a lap down. And if he thinks Gill's got a little bit of pace in that Audi, maybe it's worth sending Gill up the road after Collishaw.
Yeah, it may be indeed, and just see if he can close it down and maybe pick up some of the scraps there from that battle, but we'll have to see how he plays out in that regard. This is the kind of strategic game that goes on here in some of these races, as there's a little bit of side-by-side directly up ahead. I believe that's Beer and McKell fighting up ahead of Collishaw, and so that could potentially pull Collishaw into the mix here a little bit more, slow them down if they battle in front.
Yeah, Rene Hugenhout has just got ahead of James Hall into third in the Pro-Am category, so that Ferrari's still going well ahead. I think it was just a clear pass down the hill. No, there. Oh, this will be a mistake from James Hall, maybe running wide. Oh, he's sliding on the way in. Just holds it just on the exit of the corner, but there is Rene Hugenhout looking for a podium on his debut in the series.
Yeah, and he's going to try to hold on to it here, but that Lamborghini not necessarily going to try to go away too easy, but Hugenhout already pulling a 0.6 of a second advantage here. We've got a little bit of a pass. This is going to be Cope trying to go to the outside of turn one on Lucas Lang. They're going to be side by side going down into the corner. Here comes Kieran Smart trying to close in behind. Can Cope make this work? It's still there. It's going to be a drag race.
Yeah, but a drag race onto the back straight, and Smart has nowhere to go. He's got more pace than both of them, has to choose somebody to bump draft along, chooses Cope because he's on the inside of the next corner. Cope will go through, but Smart doesn't actually gain anything from that, because Lang will now start fighting back at Cope, but that helps Cope up into second place ahead of Lucas Lang.
Yes, he does. So that little bit of a bump draft there from Kieran Smart certainly helping him out. I thought for a second that Thomas Cope was going to lose out there a little bit to a crossover by Lucas Lang, but Lang just not able to get enough speed through turn 5. They break down now into turn 8. This battle still continuing on. Ooh. All three drivers running a little bit wide on the exit there of the corner.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. Daniel Merchant, leader of the Pro-Am category, down to 8th in class. I'm not sure what's happened to him. He's had a maybe we'll see on this replay, but he is in pit lane there, so something not ideal for a Frenchman.
Well, remember, we said he pitted early. He must have short-fueled the car. He had to come in for a splash and dash. That is just pit strategy gone bad for the driver of the 114.
And that is experience of doing these races. If you haven't done them before and you don't quite get the maths right, then you're in the pits with 7 minutes to go, and you have just given away the lead of the Pro-Am to Stuart Winnes, who has a 6-second lead over Hugenhout, fighting with James Hall. So this is perfect for Track Scotland. Oh, and as I say that, Kieran Smart almost throws it into the pit lane.
That was about as out of control as you can be without ending up in the wall. Amazing car control there from Kieran Smart, but the battle up ahead of him continues to rage on. A little bit of a look here for Lucas Lang. He's going to try to do what Thomas Cope did to him, going down into turn 1, but it's not going to work. It does give him a little bit more speed coming out of the corner. Cope being forced to go defensive. Lang looking this way and that, trying to find something, not able to get it done yet, but he's going to try to carry speed down the long Moraine sweep.
Unbelievable car control by Kieran Smart. You can normally do that with front-wheel drive cars, but That is one hell of a save there by the BMW driver. Lang now making Cope defend down the hill, and will he be able to go right behind the outside? They go side by side, late on the brakes by Lang. Cope will force Lang out wide, and Kieran Smart will again be able to close back in on these two, but I think he's just about put his heart back in the right place.
Yeah, and just barely, with 5 minutes to go remaining in this race, I believe it'll probably be 2, maybe 3. Whoa! Talk about a send from Lucas Lang, and it doesn't work out. He outbrakes himself and finds himself into the kitty litter coming out of turn 8.
I suspect if we see a replay of that, Lang didn't want to make that move, but just outbraked himself and had to dive to the inside. We'll see it here. Lang right up behind Cope and maybe just got caught out by it. Yeah, just caught out under braking by Cope and just had to avoid him. So in the end, actually brilliant avoiding action by both of them to see that one coming.
Yeah, very, very heads up there from Lucas Lang and from Thomas Cope. But what this has done, the battle is not over. It has merely reset itself with Thomas Cope now under pressure from Kieran Smart in that track. Scotland driver, the Olympia Esports driver, trying to hold out to the best of his abilities. I believe that Caraballo is just about now crossing the line, so that should be about 2 to go, maybe 3.
Yeah, it's going to be very close on time, as it always seems to be in these hour-long races. Kieran Smart making Tom Cope defend. Cope now knows that Smart has been there for the whole race, and it's about time that he started defending from him, because before, Smart wasn't a championship contender or anything like that he had to worry about. Now it's about losing points if he loses out to Smart, and what a day for Track Scotland at the moment. I don't want to put the mockers on it, but third in the pro category and leading Pro-Am, this could be one of the best days the Scots have had for a long time.
And it may get a little bit better, because there goes Kieran Smart looking to the outside, going down into turn 5. He's going to try to do that, carry more momentum. Not able to do it, not able to get the crossover. He's going to have to fall back into line, and they've got to be careful. If they continue to squabble like that, that's going to allow for Lucas Lang to catch back up into this equation. But as for right now, Lang still sits about a full second behind Kieran Smart. Smart only about a half second behind Thomas Cope.
Yeah, further back as well. Herbino is closing in on Tilbeam for 6th overall. Actually, one of the quickest drivers on the circuit at the moment, with 2 minute 1.84 by Christoph Herbino. So the pace is there. It just hasn't worked out for him after his collision with Matthias Speer earlier on. And yeah, he's just trying to get back into the top 6. But Tom Valentini in 5th has had a really quiet race. We're not really seeing a huge amount from him, but he's just there cementing a score towards his championship.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just what you need. If it's not your track, you just keep on running the race that you need to run, and that's exactly what Tom Valentini has been doing, coming down through Canada Corner right now.
Yeah, we've got a replay here. This is Christoph Regenwetter, who we know's got damage from earlier on in the race. Oh, and that was a very strange one, because it looked like he touched the grass and went off, but there wasn't any grass there.
I wonder if he just locked up the rear brakes, maybe applied a little bit too much pressure, had that brake bias set a little bit too closer to the rear, and that's what sent that car around. That's really the only logical explanation I can think of there at that point. And unless my eyes deceive me, I think the white flag was in the air from Barney the Flagman, so this is it for Kieran Smart.
Yeah, Smart really has to try and make this count. He's all over Cope. Remember, Smart, he's got nothing to lose in this, whereas Cope has a championship lead to think about. If he gets, well, in this position, I think he will take the championship lead back.
I think he will as well. Here comes Smart to the outside. He's not nearly as close as he was last time. Looks for the over-under, but not able to carry the momentum. That's going to actually extend the gap here a little bit for Thomas Cope. It's now at about 3 seconds as they come up into turn 6. This is going to be tricky here for Kieran Smart. He's really only got a couple of opportunities left, unless he wants to send a very, very aggressive, surprising move.
Yeah, there's a couple of... Oh, Tom Cope sliding the wrong way into that left-hander there, into the carousel. He does seem to have enough of a gap, but Kieran Smart, I think, will be sitting there thinking, well, unless he makes a mistake now, 3rd is a brilliant result for us in the Track Scotland car. You know, no disrespect to Kieran, it hasn't looked like coming yet this season, but this has really turned on, and he's putting Tom Cope under pressure. In the Pro-Am category, Adam Gladden has moved up into 3rd place, so that's a great effort by him. We haven't spoke about him for most of the race, and he has worked his way up into 3rd in the category.
Indeed he has, and there is your leader, Moises Caraballo, coming out of that final corner for the final time. We believe he's going to come up over the hill. Checkered flag in the hands of Barney the flagman. He waves it furiously. Moises Caraballo takes the win here at Road America, setting the fastest lap along the way. Behind him, Thomas Cope will be able to hold off Kieran Smart to round out your pro podium.
Where did that final lap come from? Finding about half a second on his fastest lap. That's amazing. Tom Cope comes 2nd, Kieran Smart 3rd, Lucas Lang and Tom Valentini rounding out the top 5. And here comes Track Scotland, Stuart Winness, 2nd last time out in Barber. Oh, and almost thrown it off on the final corner. Don't do that, Stuart. But it's victory for Track Scotland after Kieran Smart made the podium. It's got Stuart Winness takes the Pro-Am category win by about 6 seconds from, hopefully, we won't say it until he crosses the line, Rene Hugenhout. So he takes 2nd on his debut, and 3rd for Adam Gladden, who just holds off teammate James Hall across the line. And here is Patrick Eimer in the YAM category, who has dominated the category. He's 26 seconds clear of Paul Cowlishaw, who we've seen off the track a couple of times throughout the race, and somehow that Ferrari is still going. There's the 2 battered Ferraris coming across the line together of Paul Cowlishaw and Christoph Regenwetter. And then if we look further back, once Paul has crossed the line, here comes our very own Andy Thompson, who's going to come across the line and take a podium. I believe possibly his first of the season, ahead of 2nd in the championship. Well, probably the leader of the championship now, Frienster, who takes 4th in the end.
And there comes Eden as he comes out of that final corner here, driving that car up the hill. Frisna gonna bring that car across the line to come home 4th. A good day there for the Ferrari driver in that very, very brightly colored livery. Waiting for the last couple of drivers here to cross over the line, I believe. But oh my goodness, talk about a race, action abounding up and down.
Yeah, yet again, we've just got a completely different result to what we had last time, and nobody seems to be putting 2 races together in terms of a couple of victories in a row to really take control of this championship. But this Road America circuit has certainly brought a brilliant race to us again. As you can see, there is our pro result of Moises Caraballo taking the victory by 6.738 seconds from Thomas Cope, who just held off Kieran Smart for 2nd place in that battle. Lucas Lang will settle for 4th, not the worst result in the world after 2 poor results last time out. Tom Valentini, our championship leader, is sitting in 5th from Till Beam. Christoph Herbenau, Tim Spesser, Anders Lea Giordetto, we saw in a collision earlier on, and Jetzer Andresen, who started at the back of the grid.
Yeah, very, very impressive there run for them. As you said, Stuart Wyness able to take home the victory in that Pro-Am category. Rene Hugenhout, Adam Gladden, James Hall, and Hendrik Lang, your top 5. Behind them, it was Arthur Hucke-Merle and Daniel Merchant, who looked so promising so early on, not really able to close it down. Roland Schartner, Regenwetter, and Hasland rounding out there. In the AM category, it was Patrick Eimer with a truly dominant performance with the driver that we've seen taking most of the wins here on the day. Tom Bingham, a DNF, down all the way in 9th, but it was Paul Collinshaw and our own Andy Thompson who round out your podium in that AM category. In Frisno, we saw him cross over the line. Alex Fields, Stefan Anderson, Colin Sansom, and David Gill rounding out your finishing order. And now it is time for us to be talking to a few of our winners. And first up, let's talk to our pro winner, Moises Caraballo. Moises, you were able to get a great jump coming out of pit lane. You had to fight your way up forward in a little bit at the beginning of the race. But once you got to the lead, it looked like nobody could touch you.
Hello, guys. How are you? Yes, it was a very, very fun race. I was like all the race thinking in saving fuel and don't do mistakes because I know I got the pace, I got the car for this track, and I feel very comfortable.
So, in terms of that comfortability, were you just kind of driving to drive it there and backing off a little bit in the early stages of the race, or were you in full push the full time?
No, in the first stage of the race, I was like saving the more fuel I can so I can do a faster pit stop so I can put it in first place and then put my pace and trying to do difference with the guys behind me.
Gotcha. And I do want to ask you because that last lap of the race, an absolute flyer. Hi, Charles Leclerc. Did you have somebody in your ear telling you that you couldn't do it? Talk me through that.
Yeah, I was with the guys of the team, with the hardpoint guys, and Michael told me, "You got the pace. Go for the fast lap in the last lap." And we tried to do it, and you got the lap there.
Well, I love it. I mean, you crossed over the line and we saw the purple, and it was very much a type of thing. But Moises, a great win here today. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for being able to claim this top step?
Yeah, I want to thanks to everybody in Hardpoint Motorsport, Michael, Hernan, Rai, those guys from other Discord that they was with me in the race too, and thanks to everyone that helped me to get this win. This is for you guys.
Well, thank you, Moises, and congratulations once again.
Thank you. See you guys. Good night.
Well, that was Moises Caraballo, your victor overall, and we've got a couple of drivers lining up. David, who do you want to bring up into the booth here?
Yeah, I think the second person we need to speak to is the Pro-Am winner, Stuart Winness. Stuart, you made the podium last time, second place. This time, one step better, and a great day for Track Scotland.
Yeah, evening, guys. Yeah, it's a good day for us, a good day for me as well tonight.
So you sort of had to move yourself forward. You know, we had Daniel Merchant near the front of the field. Hendrik Lang was leading early on. So you only really hit the front in sort of the last 15 minutes. Was that sort of a plan, or did it just happen that way?
Yeah, I qualified quite in the mid pack, and then I was like, I'll just keep digging away, and there's a few folk making mistakes, and it was bringing Daniel and Lang back to me. So I was like, okay, right, I'll just stick with them. And then Daniel pitted like 3 laps before me. I was like, okay, so I'll keep going till I need to get fuel. And then he came out in front of me, and I goes, he can't finish there since I had to put a full tank back in to finish. It's like he can't finish, so I'll easily hold them here.
Yeah, he did have to pit. I think it was with about 6 minutes to go. Obviously, the Track Scotland team have had a brilliant day. Kieran Smart's been up there throughout the race, pushing Tom Cope and Lucas Lang throughout the race. Is it just something about this circuit that you guys have got nailed, or is it a really good setup you've got, or is it just you like Road America and everything's worked perfectly for you?
I think it's just pure luck. I think to me it's just pure luck. Was doing laps last weekend on Monday, and I was like, yeah, I'm miles off here, miles. But tonight it's just like, okay, it's just little progressions working well.
Yeah, in an hour-long race, I suppose it's a situation that you don't always have to be the quickest, but for you, it's come out on top. And I think with that, it probably gives you the championship lead going into the next round. Have you got sort of any thoughts for the next couple of rounds coming up?
Glad to be back in Europe and tracks actually no, so I'll be quite happy with that.
Yeah, we've been very Americanized for the last few rounds, but congratulations on your victory. A great drive, finishing 6 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just the fans of Apex and also fans of Track Scotland as well.
So Stuart Winness, victor in the Pro-Am category, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, guys.
So DJ, is there somebody you would like to bring in?
Well, let's go ahead and bring up your AM victor here today, Patrick Eimer. Patrick, that was a pretty commanding drive for you out there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Didn't expect that.
Well, talk me through a little bit of the mentality of when you were driving along. I mean, how close were you monitoring those gaps behind? How close were you just sort of focusing on just running your own race? What was your strategy when everything kind of shook itself out?
Strategy was find find something in my pace and try to save as much fuel as you can and putting in laps. And yeah, well, it worked quite good, I think. As I saw Calling Shaw makes a mistake, then I stayed between the slow grip guys, and well, that's it.
Well, you were able to pull it off well. I mean, in terms of fuel saving, this is such a thirsty circuit. Were there any tricks you can kind of share to just how you were able to save that little bit of extra fuel?
Yeah, it's definitely after the long straights, let the car roll and hold the clutch, and then brake a little bit later, so you don't lose too much time. This is the only thing I learned from Matze Bear, so much appreciate that.
Well, it clearly played out well for you. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for this victory here today?
Yeah, Matze at first, then the whole Melanzani group, outstanding guys, perfect teammates, our sponsors, Voltronic, Vogtländer, Pantier. Yeah, great guys.
Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth, Patrick, and congratulations again on an AM class win.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Right back at you, Patrick. David, I think we've probably got time for one more if you want to talk to somebody.
I think there's one person we've got to bring into the box because we never know whether it'll ever happen again. Third place in the AN category, Andy Thompson. You've got to be pleased with that.
Oh, most certainly, most certainly. I just caught that saying it never happened again. I think I got a P3 in Watkins Glen there, Dave.
All right, it's happened twice.
That was really good. It was Harry's in first couple of laps. There were just cars up in front of me, and I think I was just really fortunate to get through unscathed. But kept it up, and I was just like, well, do you know what? Let's just keep it nice and clean. And then Paul Collyshaw spun off in front of me. He was about 8 seconds, and then came back to about 1.9 seconds. I was like, I might have a chance here, but he was just too quick.
Are you thinking of passing a few tips on to Tom on finishing races and leading the way?
Oh, that's a low blow there, Dave. No, it was just unfortunate. Got caught up in that incident, and then unfortunately got caught up. Obviously, luckily, get a drop round in this championship, so he should be okay. But he was a bit annoyed on team chat when we were chatting over. So, but no, overall, it was a really good race, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
And just very quickly before you go, with McLaren, we know you love the car. How difficult is it to drive in terms of the GT fields? We know it's not the first choice of many.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a quick car, don't get me wrong, but certainly when you come to the tail end of an hour race, you certainly feel the tyres in the car. But certainly the start of the race is really good and gives you good pace. It's just getting to the end, but I'm pretty sure that all the cars like that. But it's more suiting my style of driving, that McLaren. I don't think Tom will agree with me there, though.
So that's a podium. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, and congratulations. And also, anybody you want to shout out to?
Yeah, shout out to my teammates at Performance Link. For Tom, unlucky there, mate. Yeah, you'll get it next time. To Russ Fowler, who's obviously riding with us this season. And to you guys, doing an excellent job, Dave and DJ, with Alex and Jamie. So congrats, guys, on a great broadcast.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your podium.
Thank you. Woohoo!
And that was our very own Andy Thompson showing the people that you can drive if you've been behind a mic before.
Well, we always love to hear that, and that certainly keeps me behind the wheel. But for us today at Road America, that's about going to wrap things up for us here. Before we go, we would like to once again thank our sponsors, Apex Racing Academy, VRS Racing Schools, and SDK Gaming. My name is DJ Clark, and on behalf of David Whitehouse, Jamie Fluke, and Alex Simpson's behind the scenes, we would like to thank you so much for joining us here today. We will be back next week as the series heads to Hockenheim. And as I said, thank you for joining us. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.